Hello all. A quick video to kind of keep you on track and really just say things I said last night. But now that you've had some time to step away, I just want to refresh your memory on this. The first is that most of you at this point have shown up consistently to class and have worked week by week through the material. And as you can see at this point, that working that way allowed you to do two things each week: to ask questions of individual texts and then ask questions, and the answers to those questions would show that you can synthesize one or more essays. That's the process through which you're able to identify themes that are common between essays and establish themes throughout the text you've read and the minor research you've done. So to that extent, think about those themes as kind of the 3 to 4 to 5 things you're going to talk about in the essay. And so to return to the essay topic prompt, if the themes that you're talking about are likely going to be bifurcated into problems and issues, I guess, that you might want to talk about. So that gets at the first part of this paper. And let's just, in looking over your shoulders, I know that many of you identified things like greenhouse gases, methane, pollution, renewable energy, green energy, environmental issues. Those are your themes or problems that you've identified. And so when you begin to think about those themes and problems, I'd like you to be able to describe them, and most of you have already within your work. So the steps we did last night dealt with a rhetorical approach to describing this that will appeal to an audience that is reasonably aware that these issues exist, but may not be aware that they exist necessarily nationally or internationally. And what you're doing for them is showing a more complete picture and ultimately context to see and show why the personal things that likely affect them, that is pollution, how they fit into a national and international discussion around this topic. Okay, from there, you're making recommendations to help alleviate some of these problems. In terms of the way in which I'd like you to talk about this, consider that if you present a problem and then a solution and go problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution, what that does is that shows individual analysis. And part of being able to argue effectively is to both analyze and then synthesize. So what I'd prefer you to do is talk more about the problems that you see in the first part and then the solutions to those problems in the second. I think that'll free you up from working with a more minimalistic, sort of segmented essay and developing ultimately thus a more cohesive, synthesized essay. Okay, so at that point, consider that to get to the place where you can do both of these things is you're going to have to do some drafting and you're going to have to do some copying and pasting of your own material so that what you have is about probably 5 to 7 paragraphs where you developed thematically the problems and issues that you see and then have begun to transition into making recommendations. Having those two things developed by the time you get to class this coming Wednesday, we can then turn our attention to see, well, how can you build upon what you already have there? How can you add in that secondary source that could either be about personal issues, national or international, or it could just be a secondary source about an additional international example. Okay, with that said, that's the main focus I'd like you to take. Having your paragraphs developed by the time you get in on Wednesday, and then we'll look at introductions and conclusions from there. The more you can do, the better. It'll just put you in a better place for this class and likely free up to work on other classes. But I don't want you to ignore either the rest of this topic prompt. And so having these considerations in mind, I would like you on the forefront of that. With the exception of this last one, I really do want you to do this last. That is, unless you're completely comfortable with these types of sentence constructions, don't even worry about them until after you developed your material. So heading in Wednesday, again, I'm looking for your paragraphs developed a bit more and at a point where you can almost write your introduction. If you are working on the flip side, that is, you already know, you've already mapped out your introduction, then obviously include that, and that'll give you good focus. But take into consideration what I've just said about the paragraphs and how to develop them. All right, all. I look forward to your ongoing work, and please email if you have questions during this week.